everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sleep Paralysis News. This is our safe space where we can talk openly about sleep paralysis. It's a space where we hope we can not only discuss what sleep paralysis is, but provide support for people who are currently having episodes or who have had episodes in the past, or you may know someone or you've heard about sleep paralysis. So this is the place to come to if you've kind of got an overall interest in the sleep paralysis phenomena. We have a guest with us today who's going to share with us his experience of sleep paralysis. And so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Josh. If you can talk to us about your sleep paralysis episodes and try and include, I'd like to know how long you've had them for and when did they start?
Sure, yeah. It's pretty much, I feel like it's been with me my whole life, but I think my first episode, I was probably about 10 years old. Shared a room with my sister. We always thought the house that we lived in was haunted. Of course, like most American kids growing up on horror films in the 80s and stuff, I was always kind of into that kind of stuff too. So didn't know how much my imagination played into it, but when I was about 10, I had my first real sleep paralysis experience that was pretty frightening, just because it had never happened to me before. I felt kind of a suffocating weight, that's usually reported with a lot of those. Out of my periphery, I sensed kind of a presence too, which added to the horror of it. And it didn't last long, maybe just, 20 seconds. Felt like 5 minutes. So that was pretty horrifying as a kid, and couldn't speak. I was trying to yell out wake my mom or sister up to kind of help me. And from that point, every time I've had it since, I've always had that urge. And sometimes I would fall asleep in a room where somebody would be in there, and I'm trying to speak out, hoping that they would just see me squirming or struggling, or see that I'm, going through that, and that they would wake me up. And it wasn't until I got married and my wife was aware of that a few times she was able to shake me and wake me up before it got too scary. But I've probably had it about a dozen times total in my life that I can remember, maybe more.
Okay, so talk to us about an episode that has stayed with you, because I know that sometimes, we have these experiences and we just can't forget it. There's that one time, isn't it, where you will never forget what happened. So talk to us about that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've actually got a couple of them, but the one that I would have to pick would be after we made a long cross-country move back here to Des Moines, where we live now. And just packing up, just the whole experience of it was very exhausting. I think I drove the moving truck about 12 hours. So I've also noticed that a lot of my paralysis comes from being wore out or wore down, sometimes when I'm sick, or just not sleeping good. So needless to say, we got in about 3:00 in the morning, staying with my wife's mother. She's like, "You guys take my bed, go ahead and crash out, sleep in the morning." And I think because I was so wore out too that it took me a bit. But as I fell asleep, it didn't take me long to get into REM sleep, where I was dreaming, and woke up paralyzed. And that whole part to then was part and parcel for the experiences that I've had before. It was no different, except that I started feeling light during it instead of the heaviness that comes with paralysis. And as I realized I was floating out of my body like a balloon, and then as soon as I got up about halfway to the ceiling, I don't know if my, whatever you want to call it, astral body, etheric body, felt like it turned over. And I don't know if it physically did or just my perception. So now my view was looking straight down at my body. And as I came up to the ceiling, I actually felt a subtle, like I was touching the ceiling and it wouldn't let me go past. So I was kind of just floating there looking down at me and my wife sleeping in my bed. And that was the first true out-of-body experience that I had really had that came along with the sleep paralysis. So that was kind of trippy.
Okay, and so when you were having that out of body experience, is there anything that you saw happening? Did you see your body moving? Do you know what I mean? What did you see?
Yeah, I felt like I was pretty still. I don't remember seeing myself move, but I do remember seeing the room and everything as real as if I was awake seeing it. It was real time. Again, I don't really recall seeing my wife or myself moving, but the noises, it's kind of out in the country, so hearing the crickets outside and those kind of things, the wind blowing through the curtains and stuff, very, very vivid. Um, it really did feel like as if my consciousness was viewing that in a normal way that I would during my waking hours.
So
So
let me just go back and ask you, do you ever see anything, any entities, anything that shouldn't be there, strange, or have any strange anything touch you, any other noises, anything like that come with the experiences?
yeah, I've had some auditory hallucinations. Once I was working from home, my wife and daughter would get up in the morning. My wife was a dental assistant. She would take my daughter to daycare and leave. And I remember because I worked from home, I could sleep a little bit later than them. So a lot of times they would leave, they'd kiss me goodbye, say goodbye and leave. And I would hear all that and then get up a little bit later. And this time I woke up or became conscious within a sleep paralysis episode. And that was probably by far the one that lasted the longest because I thought I heard them coming back in the house, the keys in the door and walking in, setting things down. I did have a direct line of sight from my bed to where they would have walked in. And so everything audibly was familiar to me as if that was really happening. Like maybe they forgot something and they were coming back home. And I could sense them, hear their footsteps coming towards me. I could not see them at all. So I don't know if my eyes were actually open, but I was having the sleep paralysis. So I don't know if maybe it was partially a dream, superimposed into reality, but the auditory part was so real that as it got closer, I was expecting my daughter to jump on the bed and my wife come over and sit down on the bed and feel the weight on the mattress. And I did. I felt all of that, and they weren't there. And then I heard a voice to my right, and even though I couldn't see her, I knew it was a definite feminine entity, an energy that was, I could almost see her in my mind, but it was basically saying that it's okay. It was comforting. Don't be scared. And then I shortly woke up afterwards and house was empty. So I've had some auditory things kind of like come in to that as well.
Yeah, that's the power of imagination right there.
Yeah.
So I know you said that you started around 10 years old. My question is, who was the first person you think that believed you when you shared it? Like, what age were you and who was it? Did they believe you? How did you know that they believed you when you shared your experience?
That's a good question. My brother, who's 8 years younger than me, has also had a number of experiences. I'm not sure when his first one was, but he was too young at the time, so I don't recall. I may have told him, but at that age, very impressionable because we did have a good bond, and I believe that if I did tell him, he probably would have believed me just right out the gate. But it was my mom, I think, that when I told her, because she's had a few, not as many as me and my brother, but she's had some sleep paralysis and some kind of weird metaphysical, paranormal kind of experiences too. So she was very sympathetic and understanding with me and believed me, especially because the room that it happened in previously was inhabited by my older sister, who at the time was about 18 years old, kind of going through a rebel phase, and her and my mom were fighting. My mom went in, and of course, we were all raised in the church, so there was, a foundation of going to church and just, the Christian religion, Judeo-Christian type of thing. And my mom is still that way. And so she claims that once when my older sister was in that same room, actually in the same bed where my bed was when I had sleep paralysis, that she came in to pray over my sister and saw a black cloud hovering over her that she thought was a demon and was trying to pray it away. And then it finally went away. But she claims to this day that was something that may have been symbolic of what she felt my older sister was going through with, whether it was the music that she was listening to or the crowd that she was in. I mean, this is all from my mom's perspective. I didn't necessarily believe that it was from any of those things. But because she saw that in there and then knew that that's where I had my first episode, I think she believed me because of her experiences as well.
So there are two things that have come up so far, and I just want your take on them. Two words, actually. The first, you mentioned hallucination, and the other was imagination. I think Cyrus said that. And I'm wondering, I mean, I'm not convinced, but I'd like to hear your take on it. Do you think that these things are not real, and that somehow the mind is making them up?
Yeah, that's something I've struggled with for so long, and I don't know if I really feel like I have an answer, even not objectively, but just subjectively. I don't even know if I know for sure. I know the mind's a powerful thing, and I believe that it definitely plays a part in that. There's only been a couple times where I really felt like maybe, I think because too, when I was little, oh, I'm sorry, what?
No, carry on.
Just when I was younger, I just, had read a lot of books, and my grandma was also into that too, and we had a good relationship. And so I've always kind of thought about there being aliens or entities or more to this life, I suppose, than what we see with our eyes. And I think because I've always believed that at some level, that some of the experiences that I've had, I felt like maybe there were some entities. I've never felt threatened by any of them really, or scared by them, other than the scary feeling that I would have if it was during a paralysis episode.
And you do speak quite positively about having an OBE, an out of body experience. You speak as though it definitely was an out of body experience and not a dream.
Right.
What
Yeah.
do you want to expand on that a bit more?
Yeah, I definitely, it felt like it almost kind of affirmed or confirmed some of those things that I had kind of believed up to that point. And then it just enforced the idea that, yeah, there is more to us than just our physical body, and in our mind. And I know there's the biological explanation of sleep paralysis, where whether it's secreting a hormone or your brain just freezing certain muscles during REM sleep to keep us from acting out dreams and those sorts of things, where the opposite can happen. Maybe it's just a little bit too much, and then because you're not sleeping good, your consciousness tends to jump ahead and get awake before your body's not paralyzed anymore. So I do know that there's that portion of it too. Being a believer that there is probably, alien life out there in the universe or interdimensionally or something like that. I did have an episode where during the day I fell asleep on a couch, daytime sleepiness. I was never diagnosed with narcolepsy or anything, but I was working a lot, 2 jobs, just had my daughter going to school. So I had quite a bit of pressure on me and stress, and I took a nap and woke up in sleep paralysis. And right before the sleep paralysis wore off, I saw in front of me, which this felt more like a hallucination and not a real thing, but it was 2 kind of alien entities that were kind of typical to what you would see in sci-fi movies and modern pop culture. So that's why I feel like maybe that really was kind of a dream that I was having that just kind of got, the residue was left over as I was coming out of it. But nonetheless, that was another episode of kind of feeling or seeing entities in one of those experiences.
Yes, I feel like your subconscious mind knows what you would believe. So if you would believe in aliens, you would see aliens. If you would believe in demons, then you would see a demon. And some people see mummies, or trolls and
Mhm.
things. So whatever, your brain knows what's convincing to you. So really your brain is trying to explain this scary situation, and you're
Exactly.
still in that dream state, and your mind's like, how can I make sense of this? That must be a demon. Or like I've talked about with the other people
The
on the
whole
on the
hag
show,
syndrome.
just a pile of clothes can
Yeah,
look like a demon. So
sure,
something scary is happening and your mind is trying to make sense of it. So your mind turns those pile of clothes into whatever you would believe that it could be. So
sure.
some people might be like, oh, that's a ghost, because your subconscious mind knows you would believe that it's a ghost. So
Yeah,
I don't really believe in aliens. They can be possible. They could be out there. I haven't seen it. So I probably wouldn't hallucinate aliens, because that's not really in my subconscious mind and heart that that's something that's believable. But I have plenty of demonic experiences, because I do believe on a subconscious level that demonic attacks are real and they're out there. So it really is, these sleep paralysis episodes are kind of a reflection of what your subconscious mind believes about yourself. So it's kind of interesting. And
yeah.
that's not the first time I've heard a black cloud being over somebody and someone having to pray, which is
Oh, wow.
crazy. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard that plenty of times. And that's what my screenplay is about. It's about all the common characteristics that people have explained from all over the world, from Malaysia to Indonesia. They're explaining
mhm,
the same things, guys. It's blowing my mind away how crazy it
yeah,
is. So, yeah, I just
yeah,
want to share that.
yeah. Collectively, the cultures through time tend to kind of, like you said, whether it's incubus, succubus, witch, hag, demon, aliens, it seems like it does kind of morph or change, with the culture and kind of what they, individually and collectively kind of, resonate
Exactly.
with.
And
Yeah,
that's sometimes the older cultures have fork lore, is what they call it. So they talk about it more. So really, this happens a lot in America. Just our culture doesn't talk about it. So when
right.
there's these other cultures, which is like more like um, third world countries, second world country type populations, they have this stuff a lot more, and they talk about it a lot more, and so they
Yeah,
experience a lot more.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, you just said another term, uh, consciousness, and I think we kind of do have a collective consciousness in this world, because to get a little deeper, we're all interconnected, because we're all coming from the same source, wherever you believe in a god or whatever religion you believe in. So there is a collective consciousness where someone can have the same dream and have the same description as somebody else somewhere across the whole world. That's crazy to me. So
yeah.
this is all
Quantum
very interesting.
entanglement.
This sleep paralysis, if we explore it, this will lead us to deeper spiritual truths that mankind has been struggling about since day one. The answer is in this hallway, this gateway. So all three of us already know. We probably can't prove it to other people that there's a spiritual side to life. Like you said, that has been proven to me. So no matter what religion I was going through sleep paralysis, I was like, oh, there's something outside the body. So I've been given that proof, and I cannot prove it to other people. And that is why sleep paralysis is something that is a testament that we all have, that is proof that, hey, there's something outside of our bodies, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've recently become more at peace with it. In fact, the last 2 or 3 times that I've had it has not been as intense, and it's been more peaceful. Where when I notice it starting and I can feel it coming on, and there's vibrations involved with it as well. It's not scary anymore, and it really kind of helps validate for me that it's not an affliction, it's not a horrible thing. In fact, when I started having OBEs with it, because that was the first one, the memorable one, where I floated above my body, but I've had a couple others, and so it kind of validated to me what you were saying, Cyrus, that there's a spirit to us. There's something else more subtle that we can't see that makes us what we are, and it's comforting. I've got a lot of friends who are either atheist or maybe hardcore scientifically minded, that really do not believe that there's anything other than the physical reality that they see. And you're right, it's hard to prove, and convince them. They would have to almost have it themselves, I feel like, before they would maybe change their mind. But
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with DMT. You probably are, but I feel like it's like you were saying, you're not afraid of it anymore. I feel like it's a bad trip. So if you're afraid of something, if you have anxiety or you're going through something stressful and you're angry and you take a drug, then that is your drug experience is going to be based on your attitude, taking that drug, whether it's like shrooms or whatever the hallucinogens are out there, like DMT. So like you said, if you're not scared anymore and you have sleep paralysis, you can turn it into whatever you want it to be. So it doesn't have to be a scary experience anymore. So that just shows that it's like this comes down to our attitude about it. So if this happened to you for the first time and you're a little kid, of course you're terrified. You're like, what's going on? So then that amplifies. Like I said, now your brain is trying to make sense of what is there to be scared of. And so your brain creates something, a reason to be scared, whether it's a ghost or, a demon, whatever your fear is. So it could be spiders. Like if your subconscious mind knows that you're extremely afraid of spiders, you're going to have sleep paralysis. And guess what? There's going to be spiders crawling on you. So like I said, it's a reflection for us to learn about ourselves and what is trying to be revealed, internally, that we need to confront. And a lot of this sleep paralysis stuff has to do with, just self-examination. And a lot of it has to do with, in combination with, like you said, taking a nap and being exhausted, and what they call like sleep hygiene, and that's a huge common thing. When your sleep hygiene is off and you're not on a cycle, then that's when your brain has a computer lapse. Imagine if you don't turn your computer off for like 3 days, it starts to run slow. You need to restart it. You start having all these errors and stuff. So if your brain is not on a sleep schedule, then you're confusing your mind. So it's like, hey, should I be waking up right now? Should I be going to sleep? Why am I sleeping right now when I usually sleep at, go to sleep at 1 a.m? And so you're offsetting the pattern in your mind. And then that's when you just have like, I just call it truly is a brain error where, your spirit has not returned to your body yet because it's off schedule. And so you're trying to wake up and your spirit is somewhere still floating around. And it's like, hey, I haven't returned to my body yet. And so there's that disconnect. And so you got that 30 seconds of trying to recalibrate. This stuff is deep, guys. No wonder people don't talk about it.
That's a great word, disconnect. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So I just want to pull it back a bit, because you said that you've got some stress, not some stressors, but some indicators that will tell you when you kind of know that, you're in a bad place and that you might have an episode. Are there any other triggers? I think you mentioned stress as one and being overtired. Do you have any other triggers that you're aware of?
Physically, those are the only ones that I can think of. Either coming down with something. I think when I was a teenager, I got mono. The virus. I forget the name of the actual virus that causes that, but I got that, and I was really exhausted. I came home from school early. My mom picked me up middle of the day. I had to just lay on the couch, and I got it. So, I wonder if coming down with something, but that goes along with just being kind of overtired or overtaxed physically, emotional stress. I feel like those kind of things, like Cyrus mentioned too, your circadian rhythm gets off for whatever reason if you're switching your work shifts or you're not sleeping when you normally do. Besides that, I suppose non-physically, it could be just, for me anyways, being in new places. It seems like every time that we've moved around a lot, not just as a kid and my family growing up, but even since I've been married, and my wife and daughter and I, we've moved around the country quite a bit. And it seems like at first when I get settled in a new place, I tend to have more of those kind of episodes, and not even just sleep paralysis, but just some more paranormal stuff, which I suppose could be attributed back to the fact that, you made a move, and, there's a lot of stress on the mind and body, and emotions maybe that we don't realize. I'm fine. It's not that bad, and then it catches up with you So for the first, few weeks or a month, it seems like when I've been in a new place, I've noticed an increase.
If you had a choice, would you rather not have sleep paralysis?
I would say now I would vote for having it. In fact, I wouldn't say that I miss it or pine for it, um, but I am no longer afraid of it. Where I feel like if it were to happen now, and I think that the last one I had was maybe a few months ago, and it started. It was very light. It didn't go to a dark place. I felt at peace with it. In fact, I was kind of more lucid during it too because of the lack of fear. How the fear can actually kind of distract you or keep your mind. I was more clear and actually was waiting for some kind of out of body experience to happen or welcoming it, I suppose. So if you had asked me when I was 15, and I'd had it probably, half a dozen times at that point, maybe already, I probably would say no. But the more I've learned about it through your podcast and also through reading literature and kind of seeing both sides of it from a strictly physical, biological to even the spiritual, paranormal side of it, I would still, I feel it as a blessing more than a curse. It's just, I think, coming to grips and realizing that it isn't a scary thing, even if it can feel that way.
And do you think you're in a place now where you're kind of open to exploring where it goes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Josh. Cyrus, I don't know if there's any final things you'd like to ask.
Nope, I think we covered a good amount. Thank you for coming on the show, and please share it. The whole point of this is to kind of galvanize everybody so we're not walking alone. My first episode was when I was around 10 years old as well, and I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell a single person until I was in college, and I learned that it was actually a term. And so that's like 10 years of keeping this a secret because I thought I was the only one in the entire world. So now that we can all, come together, and now we can't all be crazy. The people who haven't experienced it and all the scientific minds and all that stuff, they're going to have to look at thousands and thousands of us now. And be like, hey, are we all crazy? Are we all crazy? So that's the power of us all coming together. So I appreciate you on the show.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, Josh.
Yeah, thank you again. Thanks for the work you're doing too. I think that's great that you're collecting, the number of people that kind of, prove that and kind of explore it more. So thank you.
Thank you.